Now, of course, to talk about technology with Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, is of course even more exciting. It's more exciting, and you have joined Microsoft, if I'm not mistaken, 30 years ago exactly, and you are the CEO since 2014. You just have to look at the value creation, then you know how successful those years were. And I should also mention Microsoft and the World Economic Forum. You are one of our most engaged strategic partners. I asked my people, and I heard we are engaged together in 36 different initiatives which the forum is running. So a great thank you. Now, we just have a discussion and not the big speeches. And when we look now, we discuss a lot during this meeting how the world has changed completely since we met last time. And the leadership style must also have changed. How did you adapt? Well, what did you see as necessary adaptations in your leadership style compared to before, let's say, the crisis came and overwhelmed us?
Yeah, one of the biggest, I think, points of reflection I have is, we went, all of us, simultaneously for the first time into a tail event together, right? So the pandemic was where the entirety of the planet were faced with a crisis together. And the thing that at least I came out of this with is a much more keener sense of what caring looks like. So for example, just before we went into the pandemic, Microsoft had this management training program we put in place called Model, Coach, Care. I must say it was just great timing because that caring became the currency during the pandemic, because every one of us had to care for each other. Every manager had to care for the connection they had with their people. So if you ask me this, what is that leadership quality that I think each of us has to build more muscle in? It's that caring, because the reality is all of us are going to have tail events that are going to be different. So when we now think back of whatever is the normal life, I think we have to realize that that ability to be in other people's shoes, have a sense of caring, I think is probably one of the most important things to have.
Brains is not enough. You need the heart today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. If we are going to make it together, I think you need your heart and your brain functioning together.
Yeah. Now, turning to technology, Microsoft, of course, is a leader in technological development. If you look a little bit more to the future, what excites you most?
Look, I mean, I think when you think about technology, the point to reflect on is what's the opportunity to be 10x, 100x better, right? What's the thing that we can be doing today, investing in today, that's going to change something, which is 10x, 100x better? I always go to 3 layers of technology. And in fact, if you look at all the enterprise value creation throughout the history of at least digital technology, it has always come down to what I think of as the core infrastructure, the core middleware, and the core interface. So if you sort of let's take the infrastructure layer. The cloud as we know of it, I mean, take Ukraine today. The reason why Ukrainian government and a lot of critical infrastructure is able to continue to function in a very resilient way is thanks to the cloud infrastructure. So in fact, we were able to work with the Ukrainian government, migrate their systems, and in some sense have the continuity. So cloud is becoming more and more ubiquitous. And another great example I came across recently is, NASA for the space, the International Space Station, they need to keep this the integrity of the suite's very high. So in order for the gloves, you can't have any malfunction. So they have now computation that is happening in the space station because the latency is too high. So the infrastructure itself, thanks to 5G, thanks to space, is really spreading everywhere. The second layer, of course, is what's happening with these large AI models, right? We used to think about speech being separate from natural language and vision. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Going forward, when I look at what we've done with our partner OpenAI in terms of building these large, dense, multimodal models like GPT-3, they are showing real emergent intelligence. In fact, we put something called the Copilot into GitHub. So if you take the white-collar job of software developer, 30% of the code of anybody who is writing code in Visual Studio and GitHub is being generated by these large-scale AI models. So I think having a Copilot for every cognitive task is right within our grasp. And then the last area is the metaverse, right? The idea that you can have the digital and the physical come together as, in fact, what you envisioned in the forum itself with the Global Cooperation Village, I think is a great example of the three areas where infrastructure becoming more ubiquitous, AI changing pretty much every application experience, and having much more immersive experiences.
I just should add, I mean, this project which we are working together, it is for the public good. And it shows also how you can apply new technologies and be pioneer in applying new technologies for the public good.
Yeah, it is. In fact, for those of you who have not seen it, it's fascinating. I mean, Professor Schwab came up with this idea of saying, what does multilateralism look like, or multi-stakeholder cooperation, collaboration look like between business, governments, civic society, and academia in a world where we can, how do you create a space like that using the metaverse? So we, along with Accenture, cooperated using our mesh platform, built this exhibit for the 1 trillion trees, which is pretty phenomenal. If you go visit it, I think what you come out with is a deeper appreciation of how collaboration can be enhanced when you have that co-presence, when you are together in a physical space, which you immersively are able to feel. Yeah. Your understanding, in this case, you're in the Sahel, you see the baobab tree, you understand the importance of reforestation.
You keep the fruit in your hand.
Yeah, you have the baobab fruit. You can even understand how, if that was marketed, it could help, in fact, that region. And so I think your deeper understanding of the challenge and the opportunity, I think, is fantastic. And the other, I would say the story behind this is these are 4 different organizations across 6 time zones cooperating. So they built the digital twin of the space. So even the design process was pretty phenomenal to see. And the fact that they could land here and within less than a day get it all functioning, I think also tells the story of what can happen.
And it was only 5 months ago when we had the first phone call to discuss this initiative. And it's amazing what you can do when you have a clear vision, what you always had for the company. Let me come back to our discussions in the earlier years. We talked a lot about regulations and regulations to data and privacy. Now, what is needed today, you feel? I mean, regulation is still, the newest regulations of the EU and so on. What is your thinking, and how can we assure the right regulation to protect the consumer?
First of all, at this point, given the pervasiveness of digital technology in our society, in our lives, in our work, I think it's inevitable to have stronger regulatory regimes around all facets of technology. If anything, I think the responsibility of stakeholders like ourselves or businesses like us is to both anticipate and adapt to regulation versus ignore it or expect not to have regulation. Obviously, with privacy, European Union with GDPR took the lead. And now even with digital services regulation, I think even with internet safety and moderation, I think there's a lot of regulation coming out of the European Union, which I think are going to set standards. In fact, the way we even took GDPR, for example, we took the subject rights of GDPR and made it worldwide. So that is, I think, the approach we will take. The other thing about regulation, though, is you have to ensure that you have the design process, right? So it's not about just how do you meet the regulatory standard, how do you ensure that the entire organization's process of building technology ensures that the regulatory framework around privacy, AI ethics, internet safety, are all things that you take into account starting at the design side. Because in technology, many times it's very hard to fix things at scale.
Yeah.
You have to start by really thinking about regulation at unit of scale of 1 versus 7 billion people.